Okay, welcome everybody. This is our first roundtable. I'm here with JT Barnett. As you see, I met him at a TikTok event a year ago. We spoke on the same panel and we found out we're both fellow Arizona residents. JT, why don't you introduce yourself to our crowd?
What up, everyone? I'm excited to do this. I am a consultant to a lot of companies, particularly in the consumer goods world, particularly around content, teaching them how to film videos, really everything from the actual operational side of where are you filming your videos, what are you using, what's the creative behind it, all the way to like where are you posting it, who's the community that you're going after. So consultant for a lot of companies, and then we also actually will produce content for select companies as well. So pretty much everything around creative.
Awesome. Glad to have you. And to the audience, feel free to say hello in the chat, briefly introduce yourself, share what you're working on, and throughout our conversation, feel free to ask questions. Up next, Juhi. Welcome, and please share a brief introduction about yourself.
Sure. Hey guys, my name is Juhi. I've spent a decade of my life in celebrity fashion, and just like JT's more focused on the creative side, I've been really focused on the paid media side. I have spent over $850 million on paid media over the past decade, and each of those dollars has been held to sales. So it's 100% growth marketing focus. But I have been at a bunch of companies, Savage X Fenty by Rihanna, Fabletics, most recently, Good American, Just Fab, Shoe Dazzle, Fab Kids, to name a few. And as of October, I've been consulting. So get to work with a lot of brands now. So that's been really fun. So excited to be here.
Glad to have you. And then business partner, Mr. Anish Dalal. Why don't you share some fun facts about yourself? I think everyone knows about our team, but if not, share a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So co-founder of Sapphire Studio, Thomas and I founded the company about almost 7 years ago now, which sounds like a crazy long time ago. We started off in the performance marketing space, TikTok being an early client. And then today, we're a performance UGC creative partner, making thousands of ads from clients from Amazon, Crocs to even Fabletics. And fun fact, in 2024, we're working on getting my pilot's license.
Awesome. And I am your host, I guess. I think everybody knows I play this sport called pickleball, and I think since we're talking in terms of marketing, I am an athlete playing in a nationals tournament on Saturday, so I will have the logo on my shirt. And the theory is if I perform well, I'm unlocking a new avenue for Sapphire. So that's a new initiative. Um, I guess first question, JT, I'm really curious. I want to know more about your backstory on how you started using TikTok and your brand just started blowing up in the past year or 2 years, right?
Yeah. So the quick little story on my TikTok background is I had always been posting on Instagram as like a health and wellness influencer. And then when TikTok came out, I started going really hard into TikTok and ended up having this idea to create the world's first adult TikTok house. So we ended up seeing a lot of like the D'Amelios and the kids in the Sway house doing youth TikTok houses, but we had never seen it be done by 25-year-olds, especially 25-year-olds that were like working regular jobs and living a somewhat normal life. So we ended up piloting this idea called Honey House, which was put 10 random people in a house and film the whole thing on TikTok. And that idea ended up working really well. It went from 0 to 1 million followers in 60 days. And when that happened, a lot of companies were like, how do we do TikTok as a company? So I ended up consulting for a brand called Poppy, that's a better for you beverage. And one of the videos that we wrote out for them that they ended up filming was a video that broke their sales record just by posting it organically. It now has like 36 million views. It's one of their highest performing ads as well. But the thesis for me of being able to sit and work with companies and explain how to how to translate what they're selling to their demographic that's trying to buy it, is something that I realized I really enjoyed. So I just started making videos on TikTok talking about what I'm seeing as a consumer and what I'm seeing for companies. And lo and behold, those videos started working. So that really built my brand. Like every single thing that we do as a company now has come through my organic content. Like I haven't ran any ads. We don't do any outbound. It really is like if we feel like there's something that a company that we want to work with, we make videos that we think they might find interesting and then hope that they end up reaching out to us. So I'm a big believer in the best outbound being making great content for those people. And that's why I talk so heavily around it.
Awesome. Thank you for the introduction on your start and growth. I'd like to
I
know.
actually I have a follow-up for JT on
Okay.
that, because when I Google him, I get ice hockey player.
Yeah.
From ice hockey to player to marketing.
An earlier life. I grew up playing hockey, so that was like my whole childhood. My dad was a hockey player. I was put on skates when I was 2, and then I feel like for me, the way that I got into creativity and like actually making content, I was making little like fun videos, even like little training videos playing hockey when I was a kid. My mom gave me one of the little flip cameras, so I had one of those, and me and my friends would go and make videos. And then the intersection for me with social media was I moved away from home at 15. So I went and lived with a random family in Canada, away from my family and away from my friends, to pursue the hockey career. And MySpace and Facebook were the things that kept me in touch with my friends back home. And so I started posting photos and videos to like MySpace and then to Facebook. And then when Instagram came out, it was like, wait, this is actually a viable career now that people can build audience through content. And so as I continued on in my hockey career, I started noticing more and more like I actually really enjoy the content that I'm making as much as going out and playing games. So when I started noticing that my career was coming to an end, because every professional athlete's career comes to an end at some point, when I started realizing that, I was like, oh, content is something that I'm really loving, and that's what I want to dive into. So that was what I started doing immediately after.
What's the process for making content? I see you do like a day in the life pretty often, but yeah, give us a behind the scene.
It for me, it comes the first question that I always am asking is, who am I making content for? Like really it's hard. It's especially now that we all live in an algorithm world. And if you go and try to make content just to appeal to an algorithm, it's why I see so many creatives getting burned out right now. We've now spent 3 or 4 years in this like short form algorithmic world that a lot of people have just tried to appeal to an algorithm. And the hardest thing is if you have success with that, now you're like really drawn to it because you've tasted what virality can kind of feel like. And now you're doing everything to just go viral again. And so I think that that's where people get burned out. So the first question that I'm always asking myself, and I legitimately, I will spend a full day just pondering this question, like, who do I want to talk to and how can I really understand that person? And that can change on days, but typically it's a similar person. Like the people that I talk to are business minded. It's a lot of times it's like marketing individuals. Usually it's people that are close to the same age as me. A lot of the times it's different versions of me that needed to learn something maybe 5, 6 years back in my own career. But it really is getting clear on that, because the content doesn't need to go viral for it to appeal to that person. Like some of the videos that have been the highest performing in terms of like business for me have only had like 1,000, 2,000 views. And then I have videos that have 1 million views, but don't do a single thing business for me because they just hit the algorithm and they went viral. And so I think the process for me is always really, who am I speaking to and what do they need to hear? And then it gets easy. Then it's like, oh, like they needed to hear that. So what's the way that they would see that and actually it would be the best for them? And that doesn't need to be like hacking or like attention retention hacking with like tons of quick paste edits that you see a lot of people doing. That could be literally just talking into the camera, but you have to first understand who you're making the videos for, and then like it really gets a lot easier when you do that.
Love it. JT, I'll let you set the topic and kind of throw a question out.
I think the question for me would be like, what are you guys seeing working with so many different companies? What are common threads in terms of both organic and paid, or either, that you're seeing right now? That could be platform specific, that could be just high level in terms of broad marketing. But I'm curious what you guys are seeing right now with the companies you're working with.
I know something that we're definitely seeing now, especially when it comes to TikTok and short form, is like this swing towards, it's almost counterintuitive, where higher production sliced into our UGC is actually working quite well. I think it's just a function of everyone's going super aggressive on UGC on TikTok, where now it's like, how do you stick out again? So we've seen when we take, like, we call them like HD shots or an HD team internally, and splice that into our UGC creative, it's actually getting like great thumb stops. And
what does that look like? So that's like a higher production video at the beginning, or is it UGC to start and then goes into a higher production thing?
It's higher production at the beginning and then like testimonial in the body.
Got it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
How about yourself, Juhi?
I was just looking at the comment. Anyone want to respond to that?
Oh, UGC creators are paid too little. I think a really good thing to do here is, like, TikTok Shop is blowing up. So I feel like if you're a really good UGC creator, you should just go control the distribution yourself. And then potentially, start a TikTok shop or do affiliates on TikTok. At the end of the day, I think you'll garner the highest rates if you're going directly to the customer. So TikTok, I think, is awesome.
I actually think that that's a great point. I think that's a great point because what I see now is it kind of feels like for creators, it's almost like the middle has fallen out. So it almost feels like there's lower paying jobs that are like UGC that there's a ton of creators that are willing to do, which means it's harder for the creators that are willing to do it to charge more because there's so many that are willing to do it. And then there's like the premium creators that are charging a lot that are also that are not willing to go down and are so staying premium. But it feels like a lot of the middle has actually dropped off. And so a lot of the creators that we work with have gone down in price and are like, I can't get the $1,000 per video or even $500, $600, $700 per video UGC job anymore. I have to lower my rates to 50, 100, 200, 250 per video, or I got to just push and only do a couple of brand deals, but won't charge like 5, 6, 7 grand for a post and not try and do UGC. So I think for UGC creators to get paid more, you have to kind of stand your ground and be willing to not get as many deals if you want to charge a little bit more, because there is so many creators that are willing to do those jobs and still willing to do UGC for very, very low price.
I have a comment on that too. The way I view UGC creators is, very similar to us. We are business owners. As UGC creators, like you said, if there's 1,000 people who are UGC creators willing to do it for X price, you have to ask yourself, how do you stand out and, acquire new customers who are willing to pay the price that you set? Now, as UGC creators, you should look for avenues where there aren't too many people. So such as what Anish mentioned, TikTok Shop, or you do affiliates, or you post content and you build a course where people can buy your product. And now as a UGC creator, you suddenly get more income. So to recap my thoughts, always look for the avenue where there are less people and dominate in that, avenue.
Also, speaking from a advertiser's perspective, I can tell you for a fact, it's really, really difficult to find a creator that converts consistently in ads. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack, honestly, which is why people are testing so many, and which is why it's so cheap initially. But when you do find a winning creator, like I said, it's pretty rare to find one, right? So when you do, the creator definitely has leverage at that point. So I think that it's totally okay to go out there and do some initial deals to get in the door, because if you have faith in yourself and you know your content's going to work, once you do, they are going to reach out to you again and again, because it's really hard to find a winning creator. And then you have a lot of leverage and you can sign independently with them.
And something I would just add on to that also is, if you're in a niche, build out an audience, even if you're just making UGC creative, because often we'll even spark ads or whitelist ads. So if you're in a very specific niche, called like B2B software, and you only have 2,000 or 3,000 followers, that might be great for a company looking to spark or whitelist, and that will give you an advantage over all the other UGC creators that don't have that little audience, and then be able to storytell about your audience and like those sparking or whitelisting opportunities.
Another thing that allows you to charge more too is if you're willing to script and edit yourself instead of just giving raw footage. That I've definitely seen people who offer that and are able to charge more. I want to talk about these new booms that I'm seeing in organic content these days. So, for example, the example with Danielle, the woman whose car burned down, and then she had the Stanley water cup that sort of, survived, and then that thing went viral, and then the whole thing with the woman on the mountain ordering, said she needed a rain jacket, and then North Face went and dropped one. Something similar actually happened in India as well, where I'm at right now. And so Lay's has a very, very popular flavor. It's like a spicy chip flavor that's been around for like decades. And I don't know where they got this idea from, but they actually discontinued that most popular flavor because they wanted to upgrade it. And the upgrade was so bad. It was so bad. Everyone hated it. And so this creator, like, I don't know, just as a joke, like he's a comedian. He just went on there and he's like, I hate this. I don't know why you would do this. And he's like stepping on it and shit. That post just went viral, like him complaining for like I don't know how long. It got about 7 million views, 200,000 shares, and now Lay's has restarted the flavor, and that's given them so much, so much press as well. So seeing this trend come up a lot, it seems like marketers are going to start like staging these, which is going to take everything away from it. But what are you guys' thoughts on it?
Go ahead.
It's just like unique. I mean, like you said, the car, TikTok. I don't know how you stage those things, but if it was staged, that's just genius because it's like something that no one's doing, and by doing so, the algorithm will favor you if the content's good. Consumers are like, oh wow, like that's unfortunate. The brand, it's like a no-brainer for them to step in and do something. It's like if you don't respond, it's like there's this market opportunity that you're losing out on.
To me, the Stanley one was actually a coincidence. The North Face one, I believe, turned out to be concocted, like essentially like created by the brand. To me, I think it's incredible the way that Stanley responded, because even from the brand standpoint, it's like to get them a new car with the amount of media that just earned is a no-brainer. But from an actual branding standpoint, it's incredible because it shows that you actually care about your consumer. And that's what I feel like a lot of brands need more of the human element to them, to feel like they really do connect to their consumer, or just to make new people, when they're in the store and they're deciding between a Stanley and a whatever's next to it, be like, oh, that's the brand that actually like went and bought that girl a car. I'm going to choose this one now. It's like little things like that most people don't realize how far they go, because usually they're subconscious, that when you're in the store, you're not even thinking that. You just end up picking the Stanley because that's in the back of your mind. So I think that was awesome that they did that, and it was really smart. The thing that I think would worry me a little bit is if you try so hard to create a situation of humanity, but it comes from the place of like, we're gonna create this situation. If it doesn't go right, I think it can end up looking bad for you. I think it can end up with it hurting your consumers and the trust that they have with you. So that would be I think it would I'd be like, let's tread lightly with what the idea is. Just because I think that it could be something that could not work out perfectly.
And I feel like that, a lot of companies will start doing that. They'll start staging and whatnot. But yeah, I think it's really hard to be authentic at scale, right? Like for Stanley to be looking out for that potential, incident, and then actually having the resources internally to be like, okay, let's go get this person a car, let's ship it, let's do it, let's contact them. I think that's all really difficult. And the fact that he did it, I think the reason it blew up was because it was super authentic. And then we're just going to see a bunch of other incidents where it won't be completely staged, but a little bit more manufactured. And I hope it doesn't take away from the companies that actually care, and then get drowned out with these staged versions. But marketers
I'm pretty excited that these kind of things are also like pushing brands to be more creative, because like
Yeah.
it's just been paid ads, paid ads, paid ads all the time, and like, I mean, UGC is getting saturated, or like people are hitting diminishing returns at a certain point. So one of the things that happened this year too was like the strikes, right? And now that that's happened, a lot of these streaming players were already losing a lot of money, so they're now going to produce less things because it's costing a lot. But like, things like Barbie and Air and all this branded content that came up this year, now brands have realized that they can have a say in that and have generated a lot of sales from that as well. So I feel like we'll have more brand funded content as well, so that's another diversification from ads. I think that could be a cool avenue, because I just heard about also, like if you look at TikTok TV shows have started popping up. I just read an article the other day about a company called Phase World. They just raised a seed round of about 750,000. They have a show on TikTok called Clockwork Dynasty. You guys should check it out. They just started posting this. It's a watch store, like a luxury watch store, and they just basically document the interactions between the sellers and the buyers and how they negotiate, like a Rolex or whatever. And there's like different types of personalities that come into the store. This has
How
got
long are
like
the
over 1
episodes?
million views. Sorry,
How long are the videos?
they're like a minute maybe.
That's
Got it.
super interesting.
Yeah, and they have a whole slate of shows now that's just like coming up. And I know TikTok's sort of engaging in their own version of the Super Bowl show and stuff like that. So I'm just like pretty excited about like these new avenues in the organic world, which is JT more your world. But
Yeah.
it's like I feel like the best marketers are the ones who can figure this type of stuff. Ads anyone can do.
I think the thing for me is the creative is continuing to evolve, and you're always having to understand how to stand out. And so even like Anish was saying before, that for you guys a little bit more of the higher production at the start is what you're seeing, versus maybe a year ago it was iPhone shot and like very raw looking. And I also think I'm seeing that, where I was talking very heavily about how I believe that iPhone content will be the content of the future, because I think it's so easy to film on the iPhone. But I also think it's that right now in this moment, because everybody is filming on the iPhone, to actually stand out in the algorithm, I'm noticing more polished content standing out. That's why I've been filming more stuff with a camera than just my phone, because you're always trying to learn what are people consuming, what's my ideal person consuming, and how can I meet them where they're at. And so yeah, I think that brands that really do put time into the creativity and are like, yo, this is an investment that we need to make, and we need to like really understand how we're going to stand out right now. Those are the brands that we end up remembering. Like Liquid Death does an incredible job of being forefront of people's minds, because they do shit that people wouldn't do. They do things that are unique, that are different. And so when you see it, you're like, how do they come up with this? Or how is this allowed to be put out? And then you remember them.
Yeah, and agreed on the experiences too. I mean, honestly, like how you were saying, Natasha, it's like really, it's like if you collaborate with someone who's really cool, you become cool. So I have a question for Sapphire team actually. Would love to know like how you guys go about like onboarding a client, because like typically you don't know anything about their business, what works for them, what resonates, right? So how do you go about like onboarding them, ingesting the right sort of information and everything so that you're able to take your best guess of making a winning ad?
Yeah, for sure. The one thing that really works out for us is we do one thing and we really focus on it. So we have hundreds of clients that we're servicing with, the same product. So a client will come in, we'll have a meeting with them, we'll ask them a series of questions. They'll fill out an onboarding form, plus then they come into the meeting, and we have a series of questions that we ask them, and this series of questions gets refined like, I say once a quarter, in terms of what we need from the client to understand, essentially to make the best UGC video we can. And then once that's done, a second meeting happens where we present a storyboard to them and then show them basically where we're going to go with the ad so we can align expectations. And then from there, we're pretty much off to the races. And then in 14 days, they get their ad.
Like what kind of questions are you asking in the onboarding?
Sure, like what are your brand guidelines? What are do's and don'ts? What are your key selling points? Can you focus, can you rank them from 1 to 3? Because in the videos we're making, we could probably focus on 2. What products are your best sellers? If it's a first campaign, we'll focus on their best selling product, because clients will often come in and want to like advertise, a full suite of products. But however, our success ratio is going to be lower if we focus on too many products. So which product would you like us to focus on? Like, could you describe some winning ads to us that you like so we can kind of understand what they think is good? And then also, if that's completely different from what we're making, we might have to like align the expectations and show them what a UGC ad looks like. So they're not expecting, this and we give them this. So aligning expectations is really important in those initial meetings. Those are the ones, yeah, I remember off the top of my head, but we have a whole deck.
Do you look at any other data points, like for example, reviews or ad comments and things like that?
So the creative team will then look at that during scripting. Reviews, comments, other ads, competing products.
Do you guys run the ads as well? Like, do you place them?
No, so all we do is we give the ads to the client.
Got it. With any of your clients, is there specific platforms that they're seeing performing? Like, is there any commonalities that you're seeing between clients of platforms that are performing much higher than others?
So I think I have 2 answers to that. Like the common one, like Meta always performs. That's going to be like 50% of all clients' media spend. But then there's always interesting ones. And those are the ones that I'm the most curious about, which are new and interesting and delivering low CPAs. And right now, I would say that's probably like YouTube Shorts.
Wow.
Yeah.
How much of a importance do you feel like having an organic presence along with the ads is for any of the companies?
It is important because often what we do see when a client converts is like they'll go check out the client's organic page just to make sure they're quote unquote legit, right? Because there's so many ads running for so many products. So I think having a good organic feed is important. But from my perspective, it's not like they need 20 to 30 amazing organic videos. Basically 2 swipes, as long as they have 2 good swipes of videos, I think that suffices for, call it a 10 to $50 million brand.
I think it's pretty important also because like, if you can get followers out of it, you're still maintaining that relationship with the consumer, even if they don't decide to buy from that ad. And then another cool thing also benefit of it is you can create engagement audiences off of your page, which you can then target, which I've particularly seen perform really well.
If you were starting a brand and you had to allocate resources, how would you like divvy them up? Let's say you have like $1 million to run marketing. How would you divvy it up between organic and paid?
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think when you're short with cash, which most founders when they're bootstrapped are, I think you should definitely do as much as you can on the organic front. if you can, like gifting and like organic content, if you go make a good piece of content goes viral and things like that, that always helps. I'm always a fan of brands that are bootstrapped and have done as much as they can organically before they jump into paid. And then, I mean, once you do need to do some paid ads eventually. So when you do, it's always good to start with Facebook and Google, and then take it from there. Facebook and Google is always the start, but I actually recommend having an affiliate program from day one, because affiliate actually becomes, it's such an underrated channel because people think it's so fraudulent. And there is a lot of fraud in it, no doubt. But like, if you can just like know how to, little bit, just basics of how to manage it, it can be massive. Like honestly, it could be 5% of your media mix, but generate 15% of revenue. So that's, I think, pretty damn big.
For you guys at Sapphire, are you guys having any of the talent that is making the videos post it to their own channels as well? Or is it just created assets for you?
We've done Spark ads and then whitelisting ads. So what we'll usually take a look at is we're looking at the script of an ad or a concept or a framework. If we see positive performance, then we'll take that ad and then we'll spark it. We'll also then try to make different iterations of that ad and see if we can spark it and hold the consistency. But we won't go into an ad sparking it. We'll find a winner and then we'll spark.
Got it.
JT, I'm curious, when you get clients for organic, isn't it like, because with organic, you can't exactly promise something. Like, how do you deal with that? Because I assume they come in wanting the next big thing. How do you manage those expectations?
For a lot of the brands that we work with, the biggest thing for them is actually retail right now. So what we try to see is like, is there an uptick in their velocity at retail, wherever we're trying to push people, if we're making the video and showing that they're sold in like Kroger, or in like Whole Foods or Erewhon. But like I would say there's a lot of conversations up front of like managing expectations of, this is something that we want you to look at as, it's not, the goal is for it to convert immediately and for you to see an uptick ASAP. But like, you got to know that this is also a brand play, that it might take 7 or 8 videos for that consumer to see you, but the next time that they're in Whole Foods, they pick you rather than the sauce next to you because they've seen these videos before. So I think it's managing expectations. But I do like the goal for me is always, I want it to work in a transactional way. So there's different ways to, there's like light different ways to track that, but a heavily one is looking at the data that actually matters the most to them.
I think one of the questions in the comments was, how do you measure brand lift or the velocity?
So they actually have, the brand will have numbers of the velocity and how it's selling through. Aside from that, I would say I look at engagement of content. Like, if there's the main thing for me is comments. So I want more people to be in the comment section of your videos, actually asking legitimate questions or giving legitimate feedback, because that means that they actually are caring about the content. Likes to me is less of an intrigue. Comments is a big one. Shares is a big one. Shares meaning they're sending it to another person, which means they liked it enough or it got their attention enough for them to tell a friend. Or even saves, like favorites is another one that I look at. So I like to see, is the community online growing? And then another thing, like they were talking, like Natasha was mentioning about experiences, I think that because attention has become so fractured or fractioned, where we're spending it not only on TikTok or on Instagram, but there's now YouTube Shorts, there's Thread, there's X, there's LinkedIn. The attention has been dispersed everywhere. That is also not to even mention that 3 years ago, in-person events was not a thing. We couldn't go and meet people in person. So now the attention is also being split with in real life things. So I think the way that I look at it, like the goal for me is, I want your brand online to be building community. And I also want it to translate to in real life, that if you throw an event, you have a list of people that want to come to the event. Because I see in-person experiences being a massive thing for companies right now to really build brand equity.
Yeah, post-purchase surveys is a great point as well.
Yep, I like that as well.
I have a question back on paid. I'm curious, Juhi, if you can answer this. What is your formula for coming up with ads that convert? Because I know, you did this or you do this a lot and you are really good at it.
You should know that. You guys are the creative shop.
I'm asking you.
I'm the media person. I don't think there's a set formula, to be honest with you, because every brand is different. And if the consumer, the target market is different, basically it's like a puzzle, you're figuring it out. I think the biggest thing is like, it's like solving like clues, give it a one at a time. You put a lot of content out and you let the people tell you what works. That is really the formula. So there's several indicators that you can look at for that, right? Like you can click-through rate is the biggest one. Thumb stop rate is another one. You guys want to share what the formula is for thumb stop rate?
Yeah, it's 2-second views divided by impressions.
Yeah. So like whatever's getting people to basically stop while scrolling and look at it for even 2 seconds, essentially, it's capturing their attention. So you can use that as a proxy. And then obviously conversion rate in CAC, which is cost per acquisition, customer acquisition cost is a big lever there. Those are all things, but also like things like actually reading comments and things like that has really, really important. No, it's not for sales, I would say, but it is a good proxy to see whether the ad is driving attention.
Yeah, because these ads are normally like 15 to 20 seconds, so 2 seconds probably represents 5% of the total view through time. So
Yeah.
then
So
some
you
people
just
do 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Yeah. And Juhi, so how about with paid? What are the trends with paid? What's working, what's not working?
Yeah, I mean, the usual suspects continue to work, I mean, as long as they've done a really, really good job, like keeping people on their platforms, which is why they continue to work, right?
Yeah.
As soon as attention is diverted to another platform, we'll see a sort of decay, but they've done an excellent job keeping billions of people online for so many hours, which is why it continues to work. So the Metas and the Googles and TikTok's been so strong. I feel like it's surprised everyone, which is why they all jumped into short form. But I feel like that was the big major player. I'm personally excited about what's going to come with TV next year because TV was so huge back in the day. Like people used to spend like 30-40% of their media mix on TV back in the day when cable was just reigning supreme. But slowly we've seen cable viewership just decline, right? So the dollars have shifted into paid social. But what's happening now is those cable eyeballs just shifted into connected TV. But what happened is in connected TV, 60% of impressions are controlled by 6 apps. And most of those 6 apps, right? What are they? Netflix, Disney Plus, HBO, Hulu, etc. The big guys, right? And out of those, only Hulu had ads. The rest of them were just sitting there ad free. And now they need to make money because a lot of them aren't profitable. So they're starting ads and they're trying to crack it. It's taking a little bit and it's really expensive. So it's too expensive for performance marketers to get in. But say maybe mid next year or Q3, Q4 next year, once Netflix and all these guys crack it and they have enough inventory, they have enough people watching or subscribing to the ad-supported tier, their CPMs will drop. And once they drop sub $15, boom, the floodgates are going to open for the performance marketers. So there's going to be a lot of impressions there. The ad loads are going to increase. And I'm really excited about that because just think about it. Like, we've been talking about like how TikTok and stuff is like starting to have some of these TikTok shows, starting to have a little bit of this polished content that's tending to work. What's been really cool also is just taking key selling points and elements of winning ads and making a TV commercial out of it. Because like at the end of the day, if people respond to a certain message, they're going to respond in any medium. You just have to take the messaging and adopt it for that channel. So I'm really excited about the reverse content play as well.
I think that this is probably the thing that I'm the most excited about as well, as somebody who's not doing it at all right now. But I just try to go where I'm intrigued. Like that's how my whole business has started, is just by being fascinated with different topics. And I think that that one is such a fascinating topic for me, the TV commercial and the media buying behind it, because I think I can speak for majority of us. We don't watch TV commercials as of right now. And like the traditional style of TV commercials, huge budget TV commercials that you're like, how are people watching this? And is this converting anywhere? So I have a strong intuition that the ads that work on social that actually people do stop and watch would probably work pretty well on a TV if they were even if they were translated a little bit. But I would be curious, like I was going to ask the Sapphire team if any of the creative that you guys make has ever been tested on something like TV, because I legitimately feel like if I was watching a commercial and the first one was like an Allstate commercial that was a typical one that we've seen forever, and the next one was a UGC commercial, and the person just like talking directly to me, and it was my demo. I would watch that more than I would watch the previous or following commercial, and I feel like that area has so much room for innovation that it's just really curious for me. So what you were just saying makes total sense.
No, I know we're personally super excited about it. Like we've had some of our UGC ads run on connected TV. Just not enough data to say if it was successful or not. But as we look into 2024, that's something we're personally excited about, because I think, JT, to what you were saying before as well, where normally in cable TV, the marketer only had one shot to connect with the user. And with connected TV, as the prices come down in terms of like putting budget behind it, but then also the part we're super excited about is like getting the creative price to come down as well. The marketer can now have maybe 10 shots of potentially connecting with the user through connected TV, and then actually seeing data that comes back. So I'm super excited to see if our elements work. And then, there's always going to be a 20 or 30% difference in something else that works better for TV than it did on social. And I'm excited to discover what that like 20 to 30% spin on TikTok Meta, creative is, to make it work really well for TV. I know Juhi and I talk about this a lot. So
well, let me say why I think that it's really intriguing for brands and for people that are running any sort of ads, because our attention is split now. And I'm such a believer. I kind of have this theory that short form organic is going to be challenged with real longevity of like having the same demand that it has for the last handful of years, because I think the fatigue that people experience by just scrolling and being almost desensitized through short form, I feel like people will get to a point where short form will become boring to them. And the reason why I'm saying this is happening for me right now. I'm scrolling and noticing I'm seeing so many similar styles of videos, and because of the accessibility that I can scroll and see this kind of like for you style of page, I'm getting a little bit tired of scrolling on short form, and I'm going, where do I want to spend my time? And for me, it has been something like connected, or something like YouTube, or something that I'm like, I want to go choose what I want to watch. And so if that's the case, if I'm feeling that way, I feel like other people probably are. And that means that there's going to be more attention on TV, which means for advertisers, I actually think that it will be a justifiable spend versus let's just pour everything into short form or into social where people are scrolling.
I totally agree. And then like the attention, as you said, JT, will be so much richer on the longer form content, because like we're on short form, it's just like we're flipping through as quickly as we can. And I think, to someone's question in the comment box, that's why the 2 seconds are important on short form, because we don't have that much time to capture a user. Or if we can't capture them in 2 seconds, they're gone. So yeah.
We have a question from the audience from Natasha. Let's say Meta extends their ad-free membership that's being launched in Europe to the US. How would this group pivot in terms of media mix?
I guess I'm curious, like what the adoption's been in Europe if they've released it. Because if you think about it, right, like they released the blue check as well, and not everyone's taken the blue check because they had to pay for it. So I guess I'm curious, like how many. And then the other piece is, I don't think that they're going to just give up the ad business so easily, because they can easily in the back end raise their CPM floors. And then boom, they're just making more money that way through ads. Whereas raising subscription rates every single year is a little more challenging. So I think they can make a lot of money back end through ads per user.
What is the, I am actually unfamiliar with this. What is the ad-free membership in Europe? Do either of you guys know?
It seems like you can pay
No
to
ads.
not have ads on Meta,
Yeah.
Facebook or Instagram.
On Instagram or Facebook, you can choose to have like different membership tiers as a user. So of the app, you can choose to pay like a small amount, so X dollars per month, to basically have a ad-free experience on Instagram or Facebook.
Do you know how much it is?
1 sec, let me just take a look. I had it up.
Like, it has to be like, what does Meta make per user? I think a year is like $17. I don't know. I agree with you, Juki. I don't know if it's gonna
Yeah.
catch on.
You know what? I can't find it. Oh, $9.99 a month. Yep, $9.99.
Interesting.
I mean, their revenue per user has just been going up and up because they can control how much the CPM is. So I don't
Yeah.
know.
And I think the itself, sorry, jumping in voice now, was it not only just from an ads perspective, right? Like, how does content development then pivot? How do you then think about like where those dollars and where that attention goes? So it's stringing together like a lot of the conversations that have been happening throughout like this entire discussion, but just like thinking about it, right? I think Anish, you had mentioned, as you work with clients as well, like 50% of this budget goes towards Meta. But if that is something that is like potentially on the horizon, how does it change how this ecosystem operates?
Yeah,
One
it's
thing- One thing I do want to add to that is if that does happen, the people that will benefit the most from this are creators. Because right now on Meta, the algo is like favoring ads all the time. And that's why people don't get the reach and stuff they want after a certain point. So this will benefit creators. And I think this is one of the reasons why TikTok has boomed so much, because the algorithm just favors good content, you know, but with Meta, it's not the case. You have to pay.
I think going off of that, like as Juhi said, organic content becomes a lot more important, right? Because you can't literally shove a piece of content in somebody's face because you have millions of dollars. So I think, you know, organic becomes really important. But yeah, no, it's interesting because I just looked it up. Meta makes $40 a user in the US on a yearly basis. So to give that up, it'll be quite difficult. But I think it just makes overall quality of content go up if the ad ecosystem gets shut off.
I think for me, it's similar to how it was on TikTok at the beginning of TikTok. Like before there was being tons of ads being thrown around and companies paying so much to whitelist or boost their content. Like I think it was the creative that stands out. So if there's no ability to actually pay for viewership, it will fully rely on being good at creating.
That would be pretty cool, actually. I mean, I love ads and everything. It drives the business for sure, but that's just fun for creators.
So
That's
the
cool.
thing for me is I think that's an interesting idea for brands to look at it like that regardless and be like, we have to be good enough with content that if we couldn't rely on ads, our brand would still be seen. If you adopt that mindset, like I look at ads like the gasoline on a fire, not the fire itself. And I feel like the creative is actually the fire itself. And so if you're looking at it like, how do we actually get to a place where we can pour gasoline on this, but if that was taken away from us, our brand doesn't go extinct.
We have a couple minutes. I want to shift the topic to building a brand. And I have a question for both Juhi and JT. What advice would you give for, I guess, like for myself, like I want to build a better organic reach / brand, kind of like you both. Like Juhi, I think you do a great job on LinkedIn. When you posted, you got so much engagement. What advice would you have for me?
Are you talking about personal brand or like an actual
personal brand.
consumer
Yeah.
brand? Personal brand?
Yeah.
Honestly, like my thing was like just by chance. Because what happened is I had left my job and I was joining my friend's freelance marketplace. And he wanted to announce that I was joining his marketplace. And then it just hit me. I was like, wait a second, if he announces it, then he's going to announce that I quit, not me. So I was like, I should announce that. So I posted it, and I'm so glad I did, because, you know, it just completely went viral and my inbox blew up. And like JD was saying, you know, it's totally possible to make this happen and get like just 100% inbound. That's the best way to do it. Really, you know, so I think it really took that post to see what it is. With LinkedIn specifically, personal stories really resonate. So start with that. I would say as a good start. And then once, you know, once people have seen you, engaged with you, things like that, then you can start introducing other forms of content as well. It's like, yeah, you initially need to build a little bit of that trust with them, and it helps. Vulnerability always helps, right? Because it makes you more relatable. So
Thomas, where would you want to be building it mainly? LinkedIn?
Instagram, TikTok.
Cool. I think, yeah, it's similar to the conversation we were having earlier of knowing who you want to be speaking to, like who is it that you want following you, and then thinking about what are the things that that person would like to hear or needs to hear. Obviously, you have a ton of information to share, just being who you are and where you're at and the things you've experienced, that I would walk around throughout the day. And when you have a conversation with somebody that you're like, oh, my audience needs to hear that, like write down a little note about your takeaways from that conversation, and then pick a time throughout the week that you just like actually turn those into ideas. That could be written, like Julie was just saying, where you're like, oh, I had that conversation about ads earlier. Let me like write that into a LinkedIn post, and you can schedule it. You can post it then. You can just schedule it out for the week. Or if that's a video, it's writing out like, cool, what are the talking points of this video? And then can I set up my camera and actually do it? But I keep a running list of notes for things that happen throughout the week. And then I have set times throughout the week to like really sit down and like flush those ideas out.
Thank you. No, that was very helpful. Yeah, I see LinkedIn and like the two as two different avenues. So I guess it'd be
by the way,
nice to get, huh?
No, go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna
Finish
say
your thought.
it's nice to get everything, but obviously we can't, choose every
You
platform.
can, but you don't need to start that way, because that is a way that I see a lot of people doing. They're like, let me go everywhere.
Mhm.
And then they burn out after 2 months because it's just so hard to manage. Yes, you can go everywhere at scale with help. And the people that are doing it the best all have a team of probably 4, 5 to 10 to 20 people that are helping them manage these other channels.
Mhm.
So I would pick one that you feel like comes the most natural to you, or that you're like really the most excited about, and like try to crush it there. And then once you build on one platform, it's easier to drive them to other ones as well. I'm such a believer that if you really understand one platform, you will be better at doing all the other ones, because they all run pretty similarly. It really is like understanding your audience and understanding the format of that platform. And if you get one, like really get one, it's easier to go into these other ones and be good at them as well.
I also think like when you're choosing a platform, it depends like what you're trying to go for too. You know, if you're trying to go for like B2C, then TikTok, Instagram is probably better. But if you want B2B, then you got to be on LinkedIn, and actually X. X is huge. X actually generates the most amount of leads possible out of all the platforms on a B2B perspective. So I'm actually learning X now too because of this. But yeah. So yeah, it helps narrow it down depending on what you're looking for. Another tip I want to tell people is just people want to help. A lot of people want to help. And a lot of times, like, you know, if people are in tough situations and stuff like that, they're scared or a little nervous or a little embarrassed even to like put it out there for people to see. But like, honestly, just do it, because there's a ton of people out there who just genuinely just want to help. So, and unless you put it out there, they're not going to know, and they can't help you.
Thank you. Do you guys have any final questions before we wrap up? Or thoughts?
I have a quick question, if I may ask.
Yeah, go for it.
So this question's for JT. So as we're coming into the end of 2023, we're seeing a lot of social media platforms releasing their trends for 2024. do you see any trends that are on your radar that they're not announcing?
I actually haven't looked at any of those, so I'm really not even sure what they are announcing. But my trends that I see for 2024, I see higher production being something that people lean into more because of the flooding of iPhone shot stuff. But I think that a lot of the higher production will still be not that engaging. It'll just be very polished, but it won't be that engaging. And then I think once that happens, I think it just becomes a grab bag of all different styles, lower production, higher production, super cinematic, super raw. But initially, I think in the early parts of this next year, we'll start seeing more people dive into higher production. I really am feeling like the fragmentation of attention that I couldn't even tell you right now what is the number one platform. It's all of them. And 2 years ago, even a year and maybe a year ago, I would have been like, I'm spending majority of my time on TikTok. Now I feel like I'm spending more of my time on Instagram out of habit, but not out of necessarily enjoyment. And then I'm spending time on YouTube, I'm spending time on television, I'm spending time on LinkedIn. So I just feel like it's everywhere. So I think creators or creatives that are trying to understand what is the platform to be on are going to get exhausted because there isn't one. And so I think that that's where more people need to spend time really understanding who's our consumer and where are they, rather than just where is overall attention. So a trend that I'm feeling is a lot of creatives are getting burned out or getting exhausted. TV is another thing that I'm feeling really excited about.
So we're at the hour, and we are going to have to cap off our conversation. But thank you to everyone who has attended, and thank you to everyone for sharing their insights. Why don't we go around, start with Anish and go down, share one thing you are excited about for 2024?
TV.
Juhi.
I'm going to say
or
the same.
JT.
Yeah.
Okay.
TV.
Yeah, me too.
I'm gonna say something different because it relates
Cool.
to my own goal, personal branding. I want to like focus on building that.
Nice.
So yeah.
Love that.
Okay, shameless
Awesome.
plug, since everyone said TV, Karina was in the chat and I are doing a TV webinar. So if you want to understand TV, come join. It'll be first week of January. I'll post it.
Love.
All right. Thank you,
All right,
everybody.
guys. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah.
Later,
Take care,
everyone.
everyone. Bye.
Thanks, you teach it.